Welcome back to the podcast with no intro. This is this is Matthew Broussard. Hi, Danny.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. I've been traveling a lot, Danny. I've been traveling quite a bit, and I'm
I know
yeah,
you've been really hitting it hard.
really hitting it hard. It was like I went uh, to Austin for 2 nights, straight to Orange County, Irvine for 2 nights, home for a day, straight to DC, and then instead of staying in DC, I ended up coming home that night so I could wake up the next day and fly to Orange County again, where I stayed for 2 nights. Came home, did a weekend of spots in New York City, and yesterday was my first day off, and I got pretty drunk with my wife for her pre-birthday celebration.
Hey, you drunk?
Me drunk,
How'd you do?
good. I was
Good.
so toasted so fast because we skipped breakfast and went and saw Masquerade. Incredible. If you can see Masquerade,
What's
it's the
masquerade?
it's the kind of interactive Phantom of the Opera where you like go from room to room and like they
Oh,
like talk
cool.
to you. And it's usually I have a lot of contempt for just repackaging of old things in place of
Mhm,
trying to make a new property, especially on Broadway, which
mhm.
is run amok with just regurgitating what was popular.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, Broadway is doing what Hollywood does, is doing
mhm,
what music is doing what every art has become
mhm.
more corporate. So every art has started going, well, what's the safest bet we
Yeah,
have?
risk management.
Yep.
How can we work within predictable parameters
Yeah.
and shave off the top and the bottom end of projected outcomes as a
Which,
result?
by the way, is the best framework for great art.
I think ar- art does not succeed without constraints. It's like they say.
It's
It's
like
like
they
Lorne Michaels
always
says.
say.
You need the pressure of shareholders crushing you down such that you don't take unnecessary risks and don't challenge the audience nor yourself as a
I
creator. This is what
I
creates great art.
I always
Mhm,
say every young artist should sit in a room, look at a
mhm,
blank piece of paper and go, "What can I create that will have the least risk and most profit in the first moment it
mhm,
becomes public?"
mhm.
And make sure it isn't anything that'll have any sort of longevity or
Yes,
build to something more or
crucial.
potentially have future you don't want it. You
No, no,
don't
no,
want it.
if you're writing a pilot, think about what ads will go well in that first commercial break. Think about, like,
That's the way
what
you create
ads are we
something good.
leading into? BMW?
Mhm.
I hope. I hope. How can
That's
we bring in an audience that spends more? Young people, women, whatever it takes, gays, whoever we can hang upside down by their ankles and shake the money out of them.
you
This
know,
is
I
what
always say
creates great arc.
I always say, I used to when I write pilots, I always will sometimes write what the show is about on the top of every page to remind
Mhm.
myself, hey, are we driving towards what the core of this show is? Now I write 5 companies
5 companies, yes.
at the
Aim
top and
for
I go,
brands.
yeah, every page I
I
want to
put
remember
mhm.
VW.
Product placement in the first scene. In the first scene,
How
product
can we do
placement.
it?
That's how we do it.
Hmm.
This is how we create great. This is how a young generation is going to create the next Back to the Future. And by that, I don't mean like a new product that's similar to Back to the Future. I just mean we're going to make Back to the Future again.
Yep.
We're just gonna make Back to the Future and pretend no one ever saw the first one. And
Hmm.
we're gonna name it the same thing. We're not gonna make it a sequel. We're just gonna recast it.
Remember,
It's gonna be the
if
same
we
plot, but
read,
we're gonna Mad Libs in some cultural references that are new and really not challenge ourselves or the audience.
yeah, we'll say it's Marty. Yeah, and it's smart
Mhm,
and it's good and it's
mhm.
great. So that said, you saw Masquerade.
I saw Masquerade. So all of that was to say it's an update, but I felt a well-earned update because it's a classic for a reason, and I thought what they added to it was made it it was deeply impressive to be in the room hearing them sing with your own ears from like you could reach out and smack them. And how much more physical it was, how much more they had to do to make it this kind of production rather than just a stage production. It was Laura loved it, was crying by the end. I was more frustrated than impressed with how did they do all this? How did they do the close up magic? How do they have 6 of these running continuously. So each starts 15 minutes apart and you move from room to room, which means they have 6 casts running for twice a
Oh,
day. There's
wild.
6 phantoms. It's wild.
Wow. How many in each group?
Performers,
No, about both
audience,
performers and audience.
20 to 30.
Wow.
So, and here's the crazy part: tickets, $200. and it's listen, I know I'm privileged to be able to spend that kind of money, but that's the minimum price for any. My mom and I saw the Tina Turner tribute story on Broadway at like on a Wednesday at 2, and that's what it cost. And Tina Turner wasn't in it.
Right.
Like it's fun watching something where like, well, this I know where every dollar goes.
Yes.
You go
I mean,
upstairs and
that's
outside. It was great. It was great. Highly recommend it. I what I really miss is you remember Fuerza Bruta? Did you ever see Fuerza Bruta?
no.
It was a thing probably 2011-ish in New York where you're like there's like they're dancing on the ceiling and you're standing, there's no seats, and then they come down and dance with you and like smash confetti over your head. It
Nope,
was
hate it.
I miss cool New York. I've been like Laura and I are like talking about moving out of New York, and I'm feeling very romantic about New York lately. And yesterday we went to this thing, and then we went to like a cool bar where like Cecily Strong was there, and I'm like, I'm at a bar that Cecily Strong is at. God, New York is cool. Like it hits you with such kind of bipolar waves of like someday it just shits on you and you're like, why would anyone live here? And then some days you're like, I could never leave. I'm at the epicenter of all culture and arts and business, and it's
I've
neat.
always said New York is the most abusive relationship you can be in.
That's a great way of
It's
putting it.
it's so abusive. It's so
Yeah.
abusive because you live there and you're like, "What am I doing?
Hmm.
Why am I here? What do I get out of this? He treats me badly. I get no space. I get
Hmm.
nothing. A take from me." And then the second you leave, you're like, "I miss him so much. I
He'll
gotta go
change.
back.
We can make
He'll
it work.
change."
We
Yeah,
can
we'll
make it
make it
work.
work.
We can make with therapy. It'll all be okay.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
therapy and you know what? It might be hard, but it's worth it for the good moments.
It's yeah. And you know, every city has its flaws.
You know what?
He's like
It's
other
not
cities. Other
yeah,
cities are like it too.
I know. I'd at the end of the day, he's a good man.
He's
He's
a
a
good
good city.
he's trying.
He's
He's trying.
trying.
Everyone
And
likes him.
then but that is real. I mean, that is to me, when I lived in New York, I was like, that's all I kept thinking was like, God, it's the most abusive relationship. And now when I go back, I still like I feel the pull so hard every time I get back there.
Mhm, mhm.
And I
Yeah,
also
we
see everything I hated about it.
you know, it's the coolest move is people who leave New York and then come back. That's a very rare breed. Laura and I were talking about what if we left for just an easier life somewhere with a home and a yard, and then
It's hard.
we came back, then we'd be the most interesting people, huh? One of our friends might
Well,
do that.
Well, I mean, we talk about it sometimes, and it's just hard when you're like, so we're coming back with 2 dogs?
Yeah. I mean, for us kids, and we might need to get a second cat.
We're coming back with I mean, just the amount of space I've grown used to.
That's hard. That's hard.
Hard.
That's hard.
Hard.
And you need to be in your 20s to like really have the energy for New York. It's like it's a city for 20 somethings and then crazy people in their 50s, like lunatics in their 50s. Being 38 here is such a strange feeling. I feel like I'm the RA. It's very strange walking around seeing nothing but children. And I guess my neighborhood's a lot of parents, so it is, but like they're on their way out or they have stupid money or I don't know how they're surviving. But
Yes.
they all dress like chimney sweeps. These parents in baggy clothing. I'm I I like it. I mean, Laura and I are just like we gotta if we're gonna suffer through it, we got to do the cool New York shit. We got to go do cool
Mhm.
New York things that we can only do here. We did something for my birthday. We went to a book signing. Um, Matt Dinneman is the author of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, which is very popular. If you haven't heard about it, you're about to start hearing about it a lot. It's like sci-fi fantasy. It's a
Why are we gonna
lit
hear about it a lot?
RPG is what it's called. So it's like a guy and the world gets taken over by aliens, and now he's basically playing a giant video game for the survival of humanity. And Laura's really into the books. I've read 3 of them at this point, and we went to a signing for his new book. And it originally got canceled because of the rain, because of the snow, and then we went and they got rescheduled, and we went. And it was still full. So this guy is doing really well, and it was very cool hearing him talk about what
Dungeon
it's like being an
Crawler
author now.
Carl.
Yeah, the most interesting part was he talked about he in this room with a couple hundred people. He goes, "Who's read all 8 books?" And everyone cheered. He goes, "Who's been reading the ninth one chapter by chapter on my Patreon?" And a couple people raised their hand. He goes, "Who didn't know that last thing was a thing?" And a lot of people didn't. So he has a Patreon where he releases each chapter of his new book as he writes it.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. A little depressing in a capitalistic sense of like why can't a creator just create and put it out without having to work just as hard on the packaging and the
Yeah.
delivery? Uh-huh. And then he told us how some authors have such a parasocial relationship with their audience that they're literally share screening their Word document while they write.
Smart.
It's
Smart.
smart.
I mean,
It's
smart
smart.
and horrific, but smart.
Horrific and smart. I feel like a greedy agent, like cha-ching, cha-ching. But he's
Yeah.
monetizing all of that. People wanna pay him. The Patreon, people are paying to have more access to him.
I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, that's the reason to have a Patreon is it's the same reason to have merch, which is half the time it's just giving people the option to be like, "Hey, if you like me,
Mhm,
you're able to tip me."
mhm. Yeah, which is so weird to, like, you as a creator thinking you deserve that, to allow yourself to feel like you deserve someone just handing you money like a stripper. Like, "You're pretty, I like you, here's some money."
I know. It's
Yeah,
so weird, particularly when
it's
you're
so weird.
like, "I just want people to come to my shows," and then you're
Mhm,
like, "I guess I can." It feels like we're bleeding people dry, but then you realize, like, no, people wanna do that. But in my mind,
yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, I'm just nickel and diming you.
Y
I'm taking from you left and right."
It feels weird because it's like, I get you and I'm already listen, I'm already a narcissist to be doing this at all. Also, I'm obviously an
Sure.
egomaniac that I would think people wanna listen to me for 50 minutes is
Yeah,
already crazy. In a room,
crazy.
everyone else has to be quiet but me. That already feels like such a what am I doing that I think
Mhm.
that anyone should have to listen to me that long. I pay my therapist to listen to me talk for that long. And then to go people wanna to charge people to meet me afterwards is not exactly what I'm doing, but that's the point of merch, to shake my hand and talk to me for 2 minutes, maybe 1, depending on how
Mhm.
long the line is. Go, "Okay, bye." We shared a good exchange. You paid $25 for a shirt or $10 for 2 stickers. Um, and I'm very jealous of the artists who clearly have no issue with that. Those of our peers who are like, "Yes, more money. I deserve all of it. I deserve even more than what I'm getting." And oh, it's also when someone, like, hands you money, this is an awkward thing to address, but when someone gives you money after a show, leaves you a big tip, and you can tell you make more than them,
Oh, I don't know.
that's
Well,
weird to me.
I can never tell that. I think the thing that's
Sure,
always weird, the one that's weird to me is when people sometimes people will just be like, they don't want the merch. They just wanna give you something as like a tip,
sure.
which is kind, but it is like the weirdest one to be like, I don't do you want any of the things? If you want
Yeah,
any of them, you
yeah,
can just do you want, and they're like, "No," and you're like, "Okay." It's
yeah.
that one I struggle. I'm so good at my, like, go-to merch conversations, like, that's the one I always am like, You're just gonna give me money?
I
I
do
don't know."
what I do that doesn't happen that often because I have the stickers, so I'm like, "Take a sticker."
Oh,
Usually they
yeah.
tip big, they buy one thing nominally and then tip absurd,
That's
when that
smart.
happens, which is not every show. Oh, one more thing with Dinneman, I made a sculpture of one of his main characters, Mongo,
And
and, brought it to him.
Matthew, show the people what you're saying because people are not gonna believe it.
I sculpt little characters out of polymer clay. That's Yoshi.
Oh, Yoshi topical.
I love Yoshi. Yes, it is topical. I could go on and on about Yoshi. I've made more Yoshis than any other character. I've been making Yoshi since I was 5 years old.
Oh.
That's a rock fairy type Bulbasaur made from,
I
and
was
then
gonna say that was a Bulbasaur, and then I got scared that I was gonna sound
you got it
dumb.
right. This is a Halloween Mewtwo. This is very old. I'm making a better version of this right now.
But that's I mean, it's crazy.
Thank you.
And how
Thank you.
long does each of those take you?
At least 10 hours, a long, long time. 3D is a good bit longer. And I'm also a bit I do it for myself, so I do it to my own standards, not which is a little higher than if I was just trying to make it quickly for someone else. And for Matt Dinneman, I did make it a little faster because I had a timeline, but I just quickly sculpted something, Mongo character. And after the show, I stood in line to get the book signed. And when I walk up, I go, "Do you take gifts?" And he looks and I'm holding it in my hand. He goes, "I'll take that." I go, "Really?" He's like, I could ship it." He goes, "No, I want it right now. You made this?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "It's really cool." And that was, made me feel good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good and well done too. That's a
Thank you.
well done response by him. I mean, it's cool
Yes.
because it is like it is a thing of like, if you
That's
see
me giving something to him. That's kind of what we're talking about. Though
somebody in
mine is of
Dallas
yeah.
somebody in Dallas made me a really nice bracelet. and came to the show, and I was, like, so appreciative of it. It was so sweet,
Yeah.
and it was
That's
like, it's
nice.
very nice when people make stuff for you.
Yes, it is, and it's kind of also about them. You also need to make sure you give them that moment because they put a lot into that.
Oh, I know. I was
Yeah.
so, like, "Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So
Yeah.
cool."
Was it custom? What did it look like?
It I wish my backpack was in here, I would show you, but
Mm.
it it was, like, it was my name, and then uh it was my name, and then it had this. I mean, she was a Crazy Ex fan and a very, very attentive one, because
Mhm.
she had picked up on there was this thing called the toad of shame we had on set,
Mhm.
which was if you ruined a take with a cell phone or talking or something ready to go like, "Cut, who is due?" Which happens inevitably.
Yes.
Um, I believe it was Manuel who was in charge of props, had this thing called the toad of shame, and it was like this, like, flattened toad on, like, a little hanging thing, like a
Mhm.
necklace, and you would wear it
Mhm.
if you wore so it'd be like, "Toad of shame," and you'd wear the toad of shame, and then next person messed up, they would take the toad of shame. It was
Yeah.
very specific. It was a great move because it was one, a way to be like, "Don't ruin takes," but
Mhm.
2, it was a way, like, if you did ruin a take and you felt terror, because sometimes people ruin takes, you'd be like, "Oh my god." I mean, it was my
And then
nightmare,
yeah,
but
and then you're
it sort of
flat.
became fun.
Yeah, it flattens you when you have that moment where you screw up the team thing. It flattens you, and now you're gonna keep
Yes.
fucking stuff up in a
Yes.
different way because your energy is just a black hole.
Yes, but the
Yeah.
toe to shame kinda made it fun. It was a little sillier, which I
Mhm.
thought was a really good move and made like, particularly on a set like that where everybody did care. We weren't
Mhm.
we didn't have an uncaring set. It was like it was really smart. Anyway, she made that. That was a part of
That's
it.
awesome.
And I was
That's
like
awesome.
"What a specific."
Huh.
An
Wait, how did
on
she know
set.
about the toe to shame?
We've all talked about it at some point,
Oh, but it's not
you
on the
know?
show. It's
No.
that's
That's what I'm saying,
cool.
like,
That's a
this is
really yeah.
yeah, next level gift.
Yeah. Yeah, I forget Crazy X must have insanely devoted fans.
They're the best.
They're the
Seeing
best.
them maybe seeing them in a couple weeks.
Oh, nice,
At Netflix
nice.
as a joke, baby.
Yeah. I saw Rachel's in something else that's coming out. Oh, Devil Wears Prada 2.
Devil Wears Prada 2, the
I
biggest movie of
watched
the century.
I watched Devil Wears Prada for the first time last night.
It's good.
It's very good. I've been trying to
It's
watch those,
really
like,
good.
classic movies of an era that are too recent to realize they're yet classics.
Ooh,
Yeah.
what
Where
an
you just
interesting
where it's old
phrase.
enough where it's kind of an adjustment for your brain, where you're like,
Yeah.
there's, like, nostalgia and, like, I remember that desktop of the Orchid. I remember that phone. Um, Michael Clayton, I recommend to everyone. That's a
Yeah, you're
perfect
a Michael
movie.
Clayton guy.
Yeah,
You're a
and
Michael
then
Clayton guy.
I haven't watched a lot of man, I haven't watched, I've never watched The Notebook.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think I ever watched it. I think when it came out, I was like, "I'm not doing romantic."
I was too jealous of Ryan Gosling and how much all the girls liked him, but luckily
Aren't we
things have
all?
not changed whatsoever, and he's
Yeah,
doing
and good news, he's
A-okay.
looks the exact same, and he's in the biggest movie of them all.
Yeah. Yeah, what have you wait,
Um,
where were you this week?
I was in LA whole
Okay.
time.
Whole
I've
time.
been in LA, just doing shows, bopping around,
Mhm.
not doing anything that exciting.
Mhm.
Um, I did, yeah, like just basic comedian life.
Mhm.
Not the road, which has been lovely. I did, I did want to talk about. There was one thing I was I the last season of The Traders
Mhm.
featured a bunch of people. There's like The Traders. If you don't watch The Traders,
Mhm.
it's a bunch of people from a bunch of different worlds all coming together. So it's like a bunch of Real Housewives, a bunch of Survivor people, a bunch of the Big Brother people. It's like all these different like reality competition worlds all come into this house to play this game. Whatever.
Yes. Mhm.
The game is great and wildly flawed. Um, don't get me started on how flawed the game is. Um, but that said, entertaining. Alan Cumming doing the greatest work of his career, truly changing what any of us thought a host could be. He's
That
just
guy is
playing a character.
I met him I met him at an after party for a show in Australia. He had just done his show. You know, he has a
Yeah.
live show where he just sings famous songs with his
I'm
band,
sure
and
he
it's
does.
everyone shows up and it's great. And I went to this like cool, sceney gay after party because we had the same like touring company. And I walk in and he's standing there with just like two stone faced gays. You know, gays who never smile, just like little birds on his shoulder. And he goes, "Who are
Uh-huh.
you?" I'm no one.
Yeah,
Who are
don't
you?
worry. Don't worry about it.
It was
That's
very
so.
cool.
I mean, he's truly incredible on the show.
Hmm.
But I really was like, on the show were two comedians, Ron Funches
Yep.
and Michael Rappaport.
Yep.
And I have told everyone, I said, I'd bet my life these might be, because as a comic, you meet everybody. We're all in each other's world. Like,
Hmm.
even the people you hate,
Hmm.
you're in a room with. Like, sometimes, like, you just can't avoid each other if you're around enough. It's very hard to, like, there's like, I literally was thinking, there's one comic basically left who I have not met,
Yeah. And it's
which is,
Seinfeld.
nope, Seinfeld I've been in the room with.
Okay. I've
Brian
Funches.
Regan.
Oh.
Can't meet
Have
him.
I told you my Brian Regan story?
No, but can you say it on a podcast?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
I'll say the parts like, there's one part I shouldn't say, but I want to say it now because of that. He, well, I'll say it. Sorry, Brian. We did a show. I did the comedy festival in Jamestown, New York, which is like run by the National Comedy Museum. It was incredible, and we did shows all around. It was me, Palufo, Kellen Palufo, Steve Rogers, Mark Norman was there. It was a bunch of us. We did shows, and he had a show like an hour or two away. And afterwards, he drove over to watch all of our sets. He sat in the audience and watched me perform to like 20 people after I had just opened for Mulaney. By the way, I just opened for Mulaney, had the only standing ovation of my life. And then I went over to perform for like 20 people, 25. And I had to do different material because it was a festival. So everyone was kind of seeing me over and over again. So I had to like bust out another 10, 15
Sure.
that wasn't as good. And I still did fine. But he sat in the audience, laughed, watched all of us. And then we walk outside and he's called two cars for us already because we're going over to a bar. And I get in the car. He's in the front seat. I'm in the back. And there's no status to the way he's treating us. He's just treating us like we're all comics. And
And not like he isn't truly, for our age range,
uh-huh.
one of the first ones for
One of the
us.
best.
Like,
I mean,
like
I mean,
one of the best and one of the most like heroes as we were growing up. So it's like he's when I first went, I think I really liked stand-up comedy. He was the one who I was like, I think I found this guy. No one else has found this guy, Brian Regan.
Yeah.
He's huge for us.
Yes. And it was all that. It was all, he had no breaking moment, no TV show, no movie, just all stand up, all clean. We roll up to the bar just down the street, and he's in the front seat, and he looks over his shoulder. He goes, "Hey guys, whatever happens here tonight, no one needs to know about Regan the Lush." We walk in, and I see him dash to the bar and whisper, and I'm the only person who can hear it. "No one pays for anything tonight." And hand over a card. He proceeds to not drink that I saw. The irony, I say the first part because I never saw him drunk that night. He was just a delight. He was talking to us about comedy. He was asking us questions. He was like, "How do you write jokes like that?" And I'm like, "I'm not, you answer that. What are you doing?" And at one point he's telling a story, and it's me and Caitlin and Steve, and he starts telling the story. And at one point I realize he's performing. He's like doing physical stuff with it. And I realize me, Steve, and Caitlin have lined up and we're facing him. And it's become him performing to an audience of 3 people who are all comics and killing.
Oh,
And then he said something I'll never forget. He was talking about late night sets and how fun it was. And he goes, "Oh, it's just the best 5 minutes." And in 5 minutes, there's probably like 100 little things I do, right? There's 100 beats, 100 moments to be funny. And you'll never hit all of them in 5 minutes, but you see how many you can get. And that's when I realized what level he's operating on, because I've counted how many beats I have in a 5 minutes. I counted my beats in my Tonight Show set. It was 25. And I consider myself a pretty dense writer. And then I think to him, he doesn't see just 25 punchlines. He sees gestures, movements,
Mhm.
tones,
Yes.
faces, all of it. He sees 100 moments, and he's so much more calculating than I ever realized. He's so strategic and so deliberate. You think he just happens to be funny. No, it's a symphony. And it was so inspiring that you can keep working for years and just keep getting better like that. And just the nicest guy. Just no ego that I could possibly witness.
Let's fucking go.
So the
This is the
traders.
positive podcast.
Yeah.
A
The
Brian
traders.
Regan story, because I've never met him.
Mhm.
I've been hunting the Brian Regan meet. I've been hunting that since the day I showed up in LA. I go, I'd love to open for Brian Regan. Anybody who wants to, he's the one person I'll drop a headlining weekend to open for the guy. The only time I've ever seen him, I was with Renan Hirschberg, great
Mhm.
comic,
Great comic.
and we were sitting outside the cellar, just like chatting, catching up.
Mhm.
And it is like this because Brian Regan doesn't do club spots, so that's why you can't. That's why nobody. That's why I've never met him. He's
Mhm.
never really around. Like you have to meet him in Jamestown or Vegas or somewhere. Like the only people I know who've ever met him were like either open for him or somehow like he was in the same place as them.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He's not based. I don't even know where he's based.
Vegas.
Is it Vegas?
I've heard.
But I've heard. I mean, we don't know.
Mhm.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
It's crazy. We don't know where he
He
lives.
he could be right here. He could be here
He
right
could
here,
be
right now.
next to me.
He exists in a parallel universe. His tour dates you'll never see.
Yep.
Like I've never heard, "Oh, you're competing with Brian Regan this weekend," but I
Yep.
probably have. But he has
Oh,
his audience that's so dedicated to him, and they keep
he's
coming back.
selling out the theater. It's not even a question.
Yeah, not even a question.
If I
Clean.
knew where he was, I'd go see him. But
Yeah.
we were sitting outside the cellar,
Mm.
and Renan is talking to me, saying something probably really smart and funny. And I go like, I literally like I see a ghost. I was like, and he's like, what? And I was like, Brian Regan. And Brian Regan was just walking with his wife
Uh-huh.
by the Comedy Cellar, and he doesn't even look over.
He
There's
doesn't look at the
no.
lineup.
He just literally like walked by, and I was like, Brian Regan, Brian Regan, it's Brian Regan, it's Brian Regan, Brian Regan right there, Brian Regan,
He
Brian
didn't
Regan.
even stop. That's
And he
so
just
funny.
walked and like got into a car, and I was like, that's crazy. And I feel like Renan didn't get. Renan was like, cool, Brian Regan. I was like, no, 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 he doesn't. He's not going up here. He's not going up anywhere. He doesn't go up.
He just happens to be
We
here.
just
Yeah.
saw Brian Regan
That's so
in the
cool.
wild.
That's so cool. Yeah.
But shout
Wow.
out Brian Regan.
Just
What
a loose Brian Regan.
That's the only comic I've never met.
Yeah.
That's the only one. Which brings me
Yeah.
back to
Traders.
on the traders. Um, Ron Funches, Michael Rappaport. We all meet each other except Brian Regan. Every comic knows each other. Every comic interacts with each other. I have told most people, I bet my life, Ron Funches and Michael Rappaport had never met until that day.
Yes.
If you were to take the circle of comedians in this world and draw the furthest away from each other, it's Michael Rappaport and Ron Funches.
Antipodal nodes, as we'd say.
What does that mean?
Antipodal means like kind of on the opposite side of maybe a sphere, and nodes
Yes.
being points on a diagram.
Antipodal notes then.
Mhm.
I hate when you use big words on me.
Mhm.
And I have to go, what does that mean?
It's
Into a
okay.
microphone.
It's okay.
But sometimes I don't
I
know
think
words.
antipodal is a word that's coming around. My wife used antipodal the other day. I learned it in a math textbook, but apparently it's a term that
Jess and
people.
I have never used antipodal in the household.
What would you use for 2 points on the opposite side of a spectrum? I guess you could just say on opposite
Opposites.
sides.
Yeah. Opposite sides.
Mhm.
Dumb, stupidly. I say something like that. I go,
Yeah.
they're on the opposite sides.
So
Um,
Regan, I'm sorry, not Regan. Rappaport, who I've actually never done a show with. Rappaport and
Funches. I've done
Funches.
shows with both. I've
Mhm.
done a show with Rapport.
Mhm.
I opened for him once at the Brea Improv.
Yeah.
Um,
Without saying too much here, isn't it funny sometimes the comics with some of the worst reputations publicly are just a delight in person?
always.
Yeah. Not saying
Always.
anything about anyone we've mentioned particularly before, but
Well, by the way, shout out Brian Regan because you don't have that Brian Regan is somebody who you would think
he could
privately
get
held
away
you
with
with
being a
doing.
monster, but I
He
couldn't.
could
I
absolutely.
can't. It was such a pleasant experience.
This Rappaport What I will say about opening for Rapport, and I don't think this is an attack at all, he is who he is.
Mhm.
Like, he is on stage at the time, he was really anti-Trump,
Mhm.
and he was just but for an hour and a half, he's on I mean, long on stage, just, "This guy sucks. He's a piece of shit. He's a dumb moron." He's just sort of doing that. It's not like jokes, but it's very funny. It is funny rants, and, like,
He's a
I
good
couldn't
ranter.
tell. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a great ranter, but he's doing that. He'll come backstage and, like, a minute later, he'll be like, "I'll tell you another thing about Trump. He doesn't," and you're like, "Wow, this is how he lives. He lives
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
He lives here."
That's what made him good online was he would just go rant he would rant over videos, and that was, like, what popped him on social media.
Yeah.
Interesting character in that he was in movies, he had a TV show, and he was pretty deep in that world. He was never much in the stand-up world, but he pivoted into at least touring with stand-up and being a kind of a podcast guy. So he went from old Hollywood to new media, very effectively.
Very effectively, uh, but
And
he
how
but
is he
yeah,
on the
that's
show?
who not great.
Ah,
Did not go
he's
well
the heel.
for he was a heel. I think he tried to play it. I think he was playing heel. I also just think that's who he is. He's a
Mhm.
ranter. I mean, honestly, whoever I don't know how you let a guy like that on a show like that because he does still have a Hollywood career
Yeah.
a little bit. It's,
Mhm.
based on like what he's talking about and how much he's talking about it, it's
Mhm.
going to fade inevitably.
Yeah.
Um, as he just continues to say
Or it's
wildly
not,
unlikable
and we're
things.
wrong, and because like, we're wrong about everything, or he could become
Oh yeah.
the center of Hollywood. Because
Yeah,
the more
or
we yeah,
we're classic Danny. I'll say
yeah,
something about where I think this world's going, and then it'll go the opposite
absolutely.
direction. I'll go, got it wrong
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah,
It's classic me. But it's crazy. I don't think they've ever met. I don't think they'd ever
yeah.
met before that show. They didn't get along on the show.
Mhm.
There was no every other group, there was like okay, we're housewives. We're doing this. And I was like, Rum Funches and Michael Rapport don't know each other.
Excellent casting in terms of getting the whole breadth of the comedy of a comedy spectrum
It
of 2
definitely
guys
is.
who are touring and do when they're both in a city, neither needs to worry about losing a ticket to the other.
Yup. That's
Yep.
so true.
Yeah.
Nobody is at home going, which do we see?
They've never walked in a green room and go, "Ron, bad news. Rappaport's also in town." Yeah.
He's killing your sales.
He's
They
really taken a bite. Hey.
no, it
Yeah,
is too isn't that wild? But it was wild. It was wild as a comic being like, I'll tell you what, they cast it perfectly. Those two do not know each other.
yeah.
No
Hey,
chance. Yeah,
rant incoming. Loaded question.
sure.
Do you think conservative comedy is worse?
Ooh. So I'm gonna define conservative comedy
Sure.
first, which is we're not talking about, in my opinion, we're not talking about a conservative doing comedy.
No.
We're not talking about somebody touching light. We're talking about somebody who goes, I go on stage and for an hour, I am doing that perspective. The
Yes.
old fashioned Dennis Miller, if you will,
Yes.
who I've opened for. Nicest guy I've ever opened for.
Of course.
Shout out
We
to
need a
Dennis
name for
Miller.
we need a name for that rule. The more of a monster's reputation is, the more pleasant they are to work with out of necessity.
Yeah.
Who would it be? Who's an absolute delight? Who could we name them? I'm here to name laws and lemmas.
Yeah. What how do we define the rule that I do believe is true, which is the more of a public
Disaster. Yeah.
disaster somebody is, the more behind closed doors, they're just a pleasure to work with. The one that came to my mind to
Mhm.
define this rule would be I don't love saying it, but I do think it is potentially the best example, the Tom Cruise rule.
Oh, why? Because he's great?
Supposedly the best actor to work with in Hollywood.
Uh-huh.
The most everybody who works for them is like everybody who works with Tom Cruise is like, I've seen God. This is the hardest working, nicest human on earth. Almost any interview where somebody works with Tom Cruise, they're like, the greatest.
Yes, but he's not. I don't think that's a good name for this rule because he's not a disaster publicly.
I know.
The way Rappaport has
He's had
protesters
such
at every
weird
show.
I know. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of I mean, it's an
Well,
interesting one. Let's come back to it.
we'll name it on a later episode. What do
Okay.
you think? I think there's less representation for I'm a conservative, here's my point of view comedy.
Yes. So
Yes.
that's what we're defining as conservative comedy.
Here's
Can
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead because I'm gonna.
Well, I was gonna say, because you asked the question, can conservative comedy is conservative comedy can conservative comedy work? Was that the question?
Is it worse?
Is it worse?
And that's an open-ended question. You can take that to mean
So hardcore conservative comedy, to me, I think so. I think so.
uh-huh.
I think
I,
so. Go
I
ahead.
can explain why conservative comedy is worse using math.
Okay.
Yeah. So what does it take to get good at comedy? Repetition. Yeah.
Mhm.
To do comedy a lot, you need to do a lot of shows. What do you need to do a lot of shows? A lot of crowds, which means you need to live in densely populated areas, right? It's very hard to
Mm.
get good at comedy unless you live in a place where you can go up multiple times a night, multiple nights a week, and getting a new crowd of people every time. You get to iterate and really try out every little detail of performance, your voice, wording of jokes, and it means you need to live in a city. Um, I don't know if people know this. Cities are invariably blue. If you look at a map of population density and political preference, you can almost overlay them, no matter the region. Even in red regions, if you get a lot of people together, they tend to lean more liberal. So to have a conservative point of view and get the repetition to work it out in front of a crowd of like-minded people, you would either need to already be famous or be traveling like a monster. So
Mm.
that is why I think that conservative comedy doesn't get kind of the atmosphere in which it can prosper and build.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a g I mean, I
Uh-huh.
don't
And
disagree, because it's like I'm trying to think of some, because what you have mostly is comics that have swung into it recently. So
yes.
those are the comics that are really good, who I would say are
Mhm.
now doing conservative comedy well, are
Yes.
comics that didn't start as conservative comedians.
They
And they
built up an audience to which to tour, right? But they're not in New York City doing 4 or 5 spots at the Cellar as
No,
much.
and you certainly can't do it, like, when you're starting.
No.
You
It'd
can't
be very hard.
if you're starting as a conservative comedian, it's gonna be really hard.
It's gonna be difficult just because I hear a lot of people say conservative comedy is worse, and I would just say less represented, not worse. And then they try to make some moral grandstanding argument of it intrinsically lacks the proper perspective. It's based around cruelty and punching down, and I think that's hogwash. I think that's just self-affirming bias for one's political views. I really hate when people try to make moral arguments about the lack of conservative comedy because
Mhm.
I'm a comedian first, and I'm actually rooting for anything to succeed. Actually, the more I disagree with it, the more I would like to see it work because comedy is an incredible delivery system for any point of view. There's
Yeah.
no rules that can be implied for the perspective. There's things that more often work, but it's very fun to see a comic be arrogant and get away with it because you're supposed to be self-deprecating. It's very fun when someone has a very opposing point of view and still lands it to me.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I
I get excited to hear it. I mean, like, I'll
me
still
too.
disagree sometimes at the end, many times,
Yes.
but I love hearing a comic go up and being like, "Here's why I think," and then something I straight up don't agree with,
Yep.
because 'cause I'm
You
like,
go, good luck.
"Okay, here
Good
we
luck.
go. I'm listening."
And they nail it, yeah. The one
And
exception is, Vegas. Vegas is one of the places where you can live and get because the crowd turns over and comes to you, you can actually
yes.
accomplish a better conservative perspective. So there are a lot of good conservative comics who can work in Vegas and build up their act.
Yeah, and I think I will say, like, in 2026, I think it's changed a little bit, where now there's clubs in certain cities that are going to bring in that kind of crowd, so I think
Mhm.
you can bank on it a little bit more.
Not many, though. If you're talking
Not
about
many,
are you talking
not
about
many. Well, I'm talking about Mothership.
yeah.
I'm talking about, like, which, no shade on Mothership, but it has more of a
No.
conservative audience. Um,
Yes, but even still, I perform there a lot. Even still, it's a mixed bag. You're not going to
It's
get
a
a
mixed bag.
uniformly conservative. I can get away with my jokes there, and you'll
Oh,
still get some
same.
people. Yeah, it's still Austin. Again, you can't take the city out of it.
But the city, that's the thing though, right? Is
Mhm.
the mothership is almost a city inside of a city. It's a
Yeah,
separate city. So
the the butter compartment in a refrigerator.
yes,
The
it's a
whole thing's
different.
colder, but it's warmer than the cold.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like I don't think Mothership isn't Austin. Mothership is its own
No.
city.
No, and the
And so
crowd comes in from a
Mothership,
lot of other places, yeah.
I agree that our comedy works there too,
Mhm.
but I do think that if you were a conservative comic, you can go up there and you're gonna get a pretty good read
Yes. Yes, you can,
on
and
your.
yeah, you would be able to build your act very well, and then
Yeah.
you could go down to Vulcan, you could go down to Sunset and probably still do the same kind of stuff on 6th Street, but
Yep.
then once you try to do a Don't Tell or one of the bar shows or Cap City, you would
Yep.
then have to, tweak the material
Yes.
pretty smartly or bomb.
But that's the right, like, I guess, like, the phrase we're talking about is someone going on stage being like, "Donald Trump, love him. Here's why."
Yes,
Right?
and
Yeah, dude, can't get enough of Marco Rubio. That's the
yeah,
opening premise. So it's
fuck
like,
Mamdani. Yeah,
yeah, fuck Mamdani.
yeah.
It isn't that it's just like, I just think at the cellar, if you open with fuck Mamdani, you're not getting through the joke 3 out of 5 times.
It's gonna be harder.
It's gonna be
There's
harder.
safer ways to enter it. And again, I think the bigger asterisk on this whole conversation is there's a lot of conservative comedy if you consider people who are mostly liberal saying a conservative point of view. That is most popular comedy. That's Dave
Yes.
Chappelle, that's Louis C.K., that's Bill Burr, that's people who know on you as a liberal, you know they're on your side, and then
Yes.
because of that, they get away with saying something horrible about women
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or gay
Eh,
people or minorities or shitting on Kamala or Biden.
totally.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's also, I mean, that's what I love. I love going down the middle. I will say, I do think the truth is political comedy, the biggest problem they have is, well, we all have it, actually. Nope, I'm not gonna say especially them, but they have grifters, and they have grifters on both sides, and it's
Oh,
people
I
who.
I think we should very much note that there's leftist grifters because the people on the right get a lot of
Mhm.
steam, but we do not call out the fact that there's people on the left doing the same game.
Doing the same game.
And not to say those are
Same
equivalently
game.
bad, but like you got to have some
You've never
objectivity when
disagreed.
assessing your side versus theirs.
It I have said this, like, so many times. I am baffled by people who are like, "I am a Democrat, I'm a Republican," and I go, like, "Across the board?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, across the board." And I'm like, "That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Not one issue? There isn't one issue you disagree with.
Yep.
There is not one issue that you go, I actually don't love this part. I don't love this part. I
And then when
don't."
you go on stage and go item by item through the platform of whichever group you stand with and not go,
Yeah.
"Oh, this one actually makes me feel weird, and I don't know if we should all be signing up for that."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not one. These people who are like, every single thing, I'm like, "That's crazy." If you went, I mean, like, yeah, if you went into a if you went to a store and they had every single item you like, only items you like, literally every single case is just, it's, for me, it's, I go wrestling, I go Survivor, they just literally hit you everything. At a certain point, you'd be like, I'm pretty sure this store is either taking advantage of me or I have somehow been taken advantage of by this store. But this
Yeah.
store clearly got me. This is not good. This is not normal. They
This
shouldn't have
store been
everything.
tracking my online movements. Well,
Yeah.
let's cap it there before we get too political.
That was pretty good, though.
That was pretty
Hey,
good.
that was pretty good for us. I feel like we got political. We didn't go too deep.
We didn't go too deep, and I do think it's very important. I'm a little too proud of myself for assessing the differences between liberal and conservative comedy without trying to imply that one side is inherently better or
I
inherently has firmer ground to stand on. I think I man, do I get sick of people. I've seen so many people say, "Oh, conservative comedy is flawed to its core." It's like, shut up. Shut up.
Plus,
Listen to Bob Hope, dude. That's like the created comedy and it's hardcore conservative.
yeah. And again, You can disagree with them,
Mhm.
but you can also be like, "Good punchline.
Good
Still disagree
punchline,
with you. Still
good
disagree
framework.
with you. Good
Mhm,
punchline. Still
mhm,
still think you're wrong."
mhm.
Excited for you to come off stage and see if you really believe that, and if you do, excited to chat with you about it.
Well, that's what they say is kind of the beauty of comedy is that you can't change people's minds. It's almost impossible to change someone's mind if they have, like, an emotional connection to something.
Mhm.
Comedy basically turns off all of your normal brain functions and allows this moment where you get to reach in and put an idea in their brain when the security systems are down, and then set it there, and then and over time, they might actually change their mind on a subject.
I know. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
it's a weird power we have. Okay,
it's the dream.
where you on the road?
Well, I'll tell her about the big one. The 2 LA things. May 9th, I am screening my new special, What Happens in a Year at Netflix is a Joke. We're doing it. Tickets are free. So easy. Tickets are free, but you do have to sign up, kind of, because if a ton of people show up, we're in trouble. But also, I don't know. Netflix is basically giving us no rules and no regulations, and everybody's very confused on how to ticket these things. So
And no
I just
name.
what?
And no name on your poster.
No name on my. I mean, we have. We're winging it, but we
Yeah.
figured it out. We figured it out. We're doing fine. However, there is yes, Netflix. Sign up, but I am so excited to show people for the first time, and I'm really excited for people to see it. And then May 26th, doing the Danny Giles First the Alien show again at the Upright Citizens Brigade. Very excited about that. Yeah, and
I love Ron
those
Danny,
two
man.
are what
Mm,
I'm up to. And
okay.
then a bunch of
You're
other tour dates. Go to punchuplive.com/Danny Giles. Great.
punchblind.com, just $80. So before my cat again is gonna start screaming in the background, I'm gonna be in Boston, DC, Dublin. The cat's standing on the door handle. If you step an inch forward, you'd actually open the door. I'm gonna be in Phoenix, New Orleans, I'm gonna be Mississippi, Burlington, Tyler, Texas, Montana, Charleston, outside of Chicago, Pittsburgh, Carolinas, Portland, Atlanta, Detroit, Dallas, Fort Lauderdale, Denver. Adding a lot of dates. Please go sign up.
Jesus.
Please, please, please. Thank you. Thank you, all of you, for listening. Check us out next week.
See you next week.
Bye.